Well, hey there YouTube, it's Paulus here, back again with another review for you. This is the Toneforge Jeff Loomis plugin. Let's dive right in. So, with this plugin today, we've got ourselves quite a lot to talk about. From that demo that you heard earlier, that was exactly the way that I really want my guitars to sound when it comes to plugins. So what do I mean? That was in a full mix. I did some stuff in post. I used some compression. I made sure to cut some of my low end out. But the process from going from raw tracking to that song was really painless and actually kind of a joy. So this is an Ouzounov Ouzounov. And it sounds pretty all right. This is the plugin just completely stock for a sec. And as a big Jeff Loomis fan, this plugin came at the right time, man. I really like it. I really enjoy how easy it is for me to get a good tone. That being said, there are some small things that I don't like very much. Sometimes there's some weirdness in the high end that I can't seem to EQ out just in the plugin by itself. But then you just change cabinets, you change impulse responses, and that's another thing to mention for sure, that there's Bogren IRs in this one, which is really exciting, and I really like them a lot in the first place. I don't know if you've heard of those, but they're really stellar impulse responses made by Mr. Jens Bogren himself over at Imagination Street in Sweden. This is a guy who's mixed and mastered like, I don't know how many records, probably, I think, what was it, some Opeth, some Nevermore, some Isha, like a ton of different records, and too numerous to name. So for this plugin to have the guy who makes Jeff Loomis's records from the tone that I love from, it kind of is a no-brainer that this is going to actually work out really well. So let's dive in a little bit here. I'm going to go through the front section. We've got ourselves a compressor and an overdrive. We've got ourselves a clean rhythm and lead amplifier. This looks awfully familiar in terms of like, I wonder who made that one. This kind of reminds me of another familiar amplifier that's American. This is the cabinet section, which you can have two cabinets. Obviously there's a JST matched cab, there's his classic cab, and the Bogren has four of them in here, and then there's also an impulse response where you just have to load her up, and yeah, so that's pretty great. The next thing is these two really lovely pedals. The Skybox here has got a bunch of different verbs basically, and the mod I think controls a kind of a chorus effect. The Echo Man is an Echo Man. It's a really tasty delay with a good breadth of width, mix, and tone, right? Like it's very functional. It's like a real guitar pedal. It's really nicely put together. Finally, there's this section here, which I really love. So this section here is really cool because it's got bass, low, middle, and treble, and it's just this really great equalizer that's fairly intuitive. You don't get 9 bands like in a Neural DSP one, but you don't need it. This is all really functional, which is what I'm really after when it comes to plugins these days. So the next and final block here is the dynamics, and it's picking up some kind of frequencies coming in here. Right? And you can increase the intensity of certain dynamics, and there's a crossover frequency for that. We'll get into that a little bit later here. Of course, there's an output there, there's a tuner right there. We've got our shift and double click to calibrate input, which is super cool, and this is the gate over here. So what I've noticed is that a bunch of the presets don't actually come with a gate on. So at first I go, what's going on here? But then eventually I realized, you know, it's just a matter of gating the stuff, brother. So let's dive right in. I'm going to show you one of the presets that I've created. So this is the Ouzounov viciousness sound right here. Sounds pretty massive, hey? That's the tone that I used in the song, and it's pretty darn close. What did I do here? Obviously I'm on the rhythm channel. The master, of course, is the master of the amplifier. Of course, the presence, bass, middle, treble, and gain have been set to their levels, and I'm using 6L6s because it's got tube emulation as well, which is really cool. Now, over here I've got the overdrive. This is how I like to run it. You gotta click to edit it. There's a drive, balance, and tone. And honestly, folks, this thing, the shift and double click to calibrate input thing, has been really interesting. So I'm gonna do that right now. Let's see what it says. So it believes I need 7 more dB, I suppose, of input gain to make this guitar work with the plugin for the best. That's what I'm assuming. Now, I usually go into plugin reviews fairly blind, but I'm assuming that that's just another 7 decibels of gain. And so I'm really listening now to that gate, and it sounds really good. Oh yeah, I just need to place my finger down and mute that string finally, and we've got it. So that's what that does. Now, do I want 7 is the question. Nah, I'm gonna leave it to 6. It was at 5 before, just so you know. And so continuing on, I'm using the Model 3 cabinet here, just the single one. Obviously no effects on that sound. And this is the interesting bit with the EQ. I think this is one of the more powerful parts of this plugin in the first place, is I've got my bass frequency at 100 and it's plus 2 dB. And in terms of the low at 240, it's plus 3 dB, etc, etc. Mid is at 3K and it's minus 2 because I found it a little bit too harsh and a touch nasally. And then at 12.5K, I just haven't done anything up here because I didn't feel like there was a need to modify anything there. But listen to how sick this sounds. It's really savage. It's absolutely savage. So in terms of the tone that I got, this didn't take more than a couple of minutes to dial in. I'm gonna go through some of the presets now, and bear with me because of the fact that the gate isn't gonna be on all of those presets, if any of them. I'm just gonna explore a little bit. You make up your minds for yourselves. I think it sounds extremely mix ready, and I've been extremely impressed by the results. I've really enjoyed writing that song at the top of the video there. It was just so effortless. It was very inspiring. So let's get into some of these presets here. So Jeff Loomis has a bunch. So why don't we try something like a main Loomis rhythm. I'm gonna increase the gate there, and I'm gonna increase this input here to 5, let's say 5, yeah. So there's our gate at minus 70. Pretty sick for Nevermore riffs, folks, pretty sick. So my only complaint with this is that there's a ton of bass going on, and I don't really dig that in terms of mix-ready sounds, but if you were to play this in a room, or maybe in some kind of a live setting, because there's a live mode in this plugin that I won't be exploring, unfortunately, and there's also MIDI settings. Come on, folks, it's got a ton of accessibility here. There's a lot of functionality built in. I'm even discovering some of it right now. But yeah, in terms of in the room, I would definitely dial that down, man. It's really, really slick. There's a great purr to this distortion. I'm finding it a touch quiet, so I'm just gonna increase it by a lot. Maybe too much. It's just super riffy, which is great. I love that one. That's actually a really stellar preset. Again, too much bass for me just in the room. I've kind of conditioned myself not to have too much bass because I live in an apartment building. But anyway, so let's try out Sparkly Clean. I'm gonna switch to the neck position. Just adjusting for volume here. Ooh, that's nice. I mean, it's really just a couple of knob turns away and you've got yourself a tone that's very satisfying. That's what I'm really enjoying about this plugin. Whenever I load it up, whatever guitar it is, whether it's a 7, 8, or a 6 with classic style humbuckers, or a 6 with really hot sounding ones, it's always really close for me to dial in a tone that I really enjoy. What else would be fun? Let's see. I mean, you can't do a Jeff Loomis plugin review without at least touching the lead a little bit, right? Ooh, that's a lot of gain. All right. It's a lot of effects for me personally. I really enjoy it otherwise. That's about right. Oof, sounds really good. Sounds absolutely magical. Definitely a touch rusty on those Jeff Loomis licks there, but sounds really awesome. I'm really impressed. So I'm gonna go through a couple of other presets here and then I'll give you my final thoughts. Let's try Super Big. Oh boy. See what that's gonna do. Just sounds massive immediately. It's so satisfying to play around with this plugin, folks. Let's see, Joey Sturgis tones. Let's see what he came up with for leads. I'm always curious. Loomis? What's this mean? Sounds really sick and huge. Of course it does. Oh my God. I think that Joey Sturgis Tones knocked it out of the park with this one. And so I was supposed to do a video for them once upon a time and just things didn't work out and I always felt bad. So if any of you over there at the team there are watching this, want to let you know, sorry about that. It's just the way that life goes sometimes, but I'm very happy to do this review. I have not been paid or anything like that, folks. And of course, despite me being endorsed by Neural DSP, I still think it's relevant for me to review other plugins. I'm definitely going to use this. I used it just now in the video and I really enjoyed writing that demo in the first place. So I think that when you want something to work, you definitely don't want to pay too much for it and you definitely don't want to take too much time with it. This is one of those plugins that I think in terms of price is very reasonable, and I think in terms of it being used in a mix and sounding good in a room, you're good to go. It's very comparable to Neural DSP stuff as well. Joey's been at it for a long time when it comes to these plugins in the first place, and he's got a lot of great experience, so definitely go and check out joeysturgistones.com. I think that in terms of utilizing this in the future, I'm going to be using this and as well as another Neural DSP plugin, the Omega Granifier, just to kind of compare and contrast. They sit really well with each other because I think that the lead sound in this plugin might be superior for me personally, and that Granifier plugin has a different kind of chug to it. And I feel like in the grand scheme of things, when you are recording, let's say a song or a record or whatever, you're using multiple amps sometimes, multiple cabs, and you're trying to see what tone stacks are going to work. So that would be a really interesting tone stack to definitely dive into at another point. But for now, folks, thank you for joining me. I've been Paul Oz, and this has been a really, really killer plugin. I'm going to play myself out.